Greetings. We are now in week 4 of Church History 1, Ancient and Medieval Church History. And again, I hope your reading and study and your work is coming along well for you. I just want to encourage you. We're just about halfway through the course, and we're moving fast, but it's all good stuff. A couple of comments I'd like to make to you about what we're doing. First off, I want to remind you that term paper will be due. So if you'd go to the essential materials in Moodle, and there you'll find a long list of different topics that I suggest that you could do your term paper on if you'd choose one, and send me an outline. Let me know what you want to work on, and you really need to be doing that because time is going to catch up with you. If you don't, it's very important. It's a major part of your final grade is what you do with your term paper. It's very significant, and so work on that. Number 2, I want to mention to you and point out to you something of the nature of our study. We are studying church history, but it's not totally sequential the way we will be studying, particularly from this point on through the end of the course. We will reach forward and reach back as we study church fathers. There are the pre-Nicene, Nicene, post-Nicene fathers, and so forth, and it may seem like they're all run together, and we may deal with one from one era and compare him with one from another era, and so it's not totally sequential. Now this will be real clear whenever we deal with monasticism next week, because even though we're in the 3rd century, we'll reach back to the 2nd century with Anthony of the Desert, and then just study particularly the history of the rise of monasticism. We'll study the rise of various doctrines and how they developed, and so it's not totally, our study's not totally sequential. Just want to make you aware of that, lest you be confused. Are we in the 2nd, 4th, 5th century, so forth, so on. Today we want to talk about one of the most crucial events in all of church history. Nearly everyone who studies anything about the history of Christianity will end up talking about Constantine and that which is called the transition, the shift, the change that happened in the church under the Emperor Constantine. So I'm going to take a few moments in this video to talk about Constantine and what he did. And the second video we'll talk about the Nicene Creed and the Council of Nicaea, which he ordained and he established. But let's talk for a moment about Constantine. Now I want to give you a few things about him. First off, just strictly his importance and what's really happening. The overview here, we're going to look at a little bit of a sequence of events that happened. And then we want to ask the question about Constantine's conversion, what took place in that, and then lastly, the effect it's had on church and church history. It's hard to overemphasize how big a deal the transition with Constantine is. As you have studied and as you have read in the past 3 weeks, Christianity has come from being essentially a small segment within Judaism, a sect within Judaism. With 70 AD and the fall of Jerusalem, it's been expelled in essence from Palestine. There are no Jewish homeland territories or anything of that sort. There's no home base, and now we've risen up with a Christianity that is very Catholic. It is diverse, it is united, but it is all inclusive, and there are several centers to Christianity. The 4 that are primary are Antioch in Syria, Alexandria in Egypt, Carthage, which is over in North Africa, and then Rome, which is, of course, Italy. And all of these are equal. There is no central place that would be called home base. And then along with that, there's been just these huge persecutions, and Christianity's flourished, but it has been on the run. And then comes this person, Constantine, and everything changes. There's a huge transition. So let's look at this, the sequence of events. And again, you can read this in Shelley, but it may seem a little bit confusing to you because here's the setup. Diocletian was the emperor that really preceded Constantine. But Diocletian, because of who he was and the great leader that he was, set up what was called a tetrarchy, which was 4 actual emperors within the empire. And he did this so that he could better manage a really diverse, far-flung empire that was prone to have insurrection and revolution and assassination of leaders and so forth and so on. And so he divided up the power. He maintained supreme power, but he had 2 Augusti, or 2 Augustuses, 2 Augusti, who were the senior leaders, and 2 Caesars, who were the up-and-coming. It was a transition plan so that there could be continuity within the Roman Empire. It failed, I might add, because human nature does kick in. But as a part of this, Diocletian and a man by the name of Licinius were the 2 Augusti. Constantine and Maxentius were the Caesars. Diocletian, the senior leader, abdicates. He retires. And at this point, Constantine, who was over really in the west, in the areas of France and Spain and Britain, he decides it's time to make a power play, and he moves on Maxentius, who was the Caesar over the Rome area. And we have then an event, October 28th, 312, which is the battle between, it's an internal battle, it's like a civil war within the Roman Empire between 2 Caesars, Constantine and Maxentius, and they meet at a place called the Milvian Bridge, the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. Now, I might add that the Milvian Bridge is still there today. You can draw it up on the internet. You can see pictures of it. It's got quite a history in and of itself. The Milvian Bridge, the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. And the night before, as history tells us, the night before this battle, which was decisive, it's on the outskirts of Rome, as Constantine was coming into the metropolitan area of Rome, he has either a dream or a vision. We're not quite sure which. Eusebius Caesarea says it was a vision. It was in the sky, and he saw a sign, the sign of the cross, and the words, in this sign conquer. In hoc signa. In this sign conquer. And that sign was this sign. It's called a laborum now. You can see it throughout Christianity, and is indicative of Christendom. And he felt this was a sign from God, that he should adopt the Christian faith. He had it painted on the shields of all of his soldiers, and sure enough, they won the day, and he defeated Maxentius, and he took over the western portion of the Roman Empire. Shortly thereafter, in February of 313, he issued what's called the Edict of Milan. The Edict of Milan, and it was something of an edict of toleration. It said all Christians should be given back their property, and that there should be no more persecutions. It did not, in fact, normalize Christian worship or enact Christian worship and call for everybody to become Christians. It simply said lay off beating up on the Christians, leave them alone. Rome was still, in fact, pagan, the Roman Empire, but it was the acceptance of Christianity. Then 324, a few years later, Constantine is successful in defeating Licinius and becomes the sole emperor. He immediately calls for a uniting of the entire empire, calls for the Council of Nicaea, 325, and that takes place, and then 337 he dies. So that's Constantine. And what did he do? He moved the capital of the Roman Empire with the death of Licinius. He moved the capital over to Constantinople. It was actually Byzantium at the time, changed its name to Constantinople, something of an ego trip for Constantine, named the city after himself. That was in 330. And in so doing, he consolidated power, and he set up what would be called the Constantinian era. So let's talk for a moment about what happened here. What was he really converted? And this made an entire change. Rather than the church being persecuted, actually the church attained favored status. He gave the Lateran castle, the Lateran palace to the church. That becomes significant because later it becomes the home of the popes. He rather than church bishops having to come together at their own expense, he gives the army charge to escort them, and at government expense to whatever meetings they go to. Everything has changed, and of course, most significantly, no more persecution. So here's a question: Was Constantine converted? Or was he just an opportunist? Did he just use the opportunity? Did he see the way history was going, and in a phrase that we use today a fair amount, was he trying to keep up with history? Or was he true in his faith? Here are the negative aspects of that. The fact of the matter is he was not baptized until his deathbed. He refused baptism. He never became a true Christian convert until he was nearly dead. Now, there may be a reason for that. As we studied before, the doctrine in those days basically said when you're baptized, no major sins after that, because they had a precarious system of forgiveness after baptism. So it was pretty much to the advantage of anyone who might not be as committed as they needed to be to wait on baptism, because you don't get forgiveness after baptism. So we don't know what he was thinking there, but we do know that he never submitted to a bishop for instruction or for discipleship. He remained engaged in pagan practices throughout his reign. He was, in fact, declared himself a priest of the pagan